a teaching parable like, but a teaching that is titled "Labor not for that which perish, but for that which endure into everlasting life." And in this teaching, this is going to be a foundational teaching. It's basically like the teaching if you go back to buying and selling, sowing and reaping. That teaching was supposed to be for today, but last night I had it ready, but I was looking over it, and I'm just going to completely gut it out and just structure it a different way because I wanted to mainly build up from milk to meat, and the one that I basically put together, it was I guess you could say it was just not everywhere, but a lot of meat. But I'm just going to basically do it in a more milk to meat type of way and break it down slowly, and instead of how I had it structured out for the teaching, but for today. But I think even this is good to put this one out first because this one actually will go hand in hand with the buying and selling and sowing and reaping teaching series that I'm going to do with that one. But this one is a good one. This is a foundational one. So after this one, we're going to start to put precepts and different stories and different various and precepts and parables to this. But you have to pay attention to it. It's going to be a lot. I ain't going to give any precepts in here. I'm just going to go over it and explain it so you guys can go and study it. And then after you guys study it, the next teachings that come behind this will be a lot easier to understand. And those who don't, you wait and see which I'm going to explain in this teaching. Also, in the future, maybe this year or maybe next year, I'm going to have some classes that I'm going to be doing. It's going to be like about 5 or 6 of them. I already have the teachings written up, but I don't want to. I have it's going to be like about 6 of them, but I have about like 4, maybe 4 or 5 written up. And I'm not going to put them out on the front though just yet. It's going to be a parable, and it's actually really beautiful. But it's going to be, I'm thinking about exclusively showing it. However, don't send me no emails right now that you want to get in the class. Don't send it to me right now. Once I announce it, then you guys can send it to me to sign up for it. However, let's start this teaching. So, labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for the meat which endure into everlasting life. Now, I need you guys to pay close attention. I'm going to read through it, and then I'm going to go back over it. And hopefully, once I read through it, if you guys catch it, then that's great. Because once I go back over it the second time, you're going to see just the beauty of it and the breakdown of it. So in John chapter 6 verse 1, it says, "After these things Jesus went over the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. And a great multitude followed him, because they saw his miracles which he did on them that were diseased. And Jesus went up into a mountain, and there he sat with his disciples. And the Passover, a feast of the Jews, was nigh." Verse 5. "And when Jesus lifted up his eyes and saw a great company come unto him, he saith unto Philip, When shall we buy bread that these may eat? And this he said to prove him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered, 200 pennyworth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may take a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, saith unto him, There is a lad here which hath 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes. But what are they among so many? Verse 10. And Jesus said, Make the men sit down. Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down, in number about 5,000. Verse 11. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed to the disciples, and the disciples to them that were sat down, and likewise the fishes as much as they would. Verse 12. When they were filled, he said unto his disciples, gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. Therefore they gathered them together and filled 12 baskets with fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which remained over and above unto them that had eaten. Then those men, when they had seen the miracle that Jesus did, said, this is of a truth that prophet that should come into the world. Verse 15. When Jesus therefore, for that reason, perceived that they would come and take him by force to make him a king, he departed again into a mountain himself alone. Verse 16. And when evening was now come, his disciples went down unto the sea, and entered into a ship, and went over the sea toward Capernaum. And it was now dark, and Jesus was not come to them. Verse 18. And the sea arose by reason of a great wind that blew. So when they had rowed about 25 or 30 furlongs, they see Jesus walking on the sea, and drawing nigh unto the ship, and they were afraid. Verse 20. But he said unto them, it is I, be not afraid. Then they willingly received them into the ship, and immediately the ship was at the land whither they went. Verse 22. The day following, when the people which stood on the other side of the sea saw that there was none other boat there, only that one whereinto his disciples were entered, and that Jesus went not with his disciples into the boat, but that his disciples were gone away alone. Verse 23. Howbeit there came other boats from Tiberias. So this is in parentheses, so keep that in mind. Howbeit there came other boats from Tiberias nigh unto the place where they did eat. Where they did eat bread, after that the Lord had given thanks. Verse 24. When the people therefore for that reason saw that Jesus was not there, neither his disciples, they also took shipping and came to Capernaum, seeking for Jesus. Verse 25. And when they had found him on the other side of the sea, they said unto him, Rabbi, when comest thou hither? And Jesus answered and said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, ye seek me not because ye did see the miracles, but because ye did eat of the loaves and were filled. Then he say, verse 27, Labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for that meat which endureth unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you. For him hath God the Father sealed. Then said they unto him, What shall we do that we might work the works of God? Verse 29. Jesus answered and said unto them, This is the work of God, that ye believe on him whom he hath sent. Verse 30. They said therefore unto him, What sign shewest thou then, that we may see and believe thee? What doest thou work? Our fathers that eat manna in the wilderness, as it is written, Our fathers that eat manna in the desert, as it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. Verse 32. Then Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, Moses gave you not that bread from heaven, but my Father giveth you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he which came down from heaven, and giveth life unto the world. Then said they unto the Lord, Evermore give us this bread. And Jesus said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. Verse 36. But I said unto you that ye also have seen me, and believe not. Now, even though this is a premier teaching, that I'm not teaching this live, I would ask people what just happened. Regarding the title of the video and the subject, Labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for the meat for that which endureth unto everlasting life. I will ask you the question, what happened? We read through it, and we should have understood what happened. Many probably know exactly the pinpoint this verse right here. Labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for that meat which endureth unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give you from. For him have God the Father sealed. Because I will ask a lot, and even if you're watching this right now, you could pause it, or even afterwards, you can, if you don't get it, I'm going to break it down. You could pause it right here, and understand, and and try to understand what prompted Yahushua to say this line. What prompted him to say this? I will ask a lot of you that. But this is why we must read and we must study. Even I'm going to get into, not going to give any precepts though, because this is going to be a foundational understanding that's going to unlock a lot of things in the Bible. A lot of stories, parables, precepts. This is a foundational teaching on John chapter 6 of the words of Christ. That's going to unlock a lot of things that have happened also in the Old Testament, in the first 5 books, and everywhere in the scriptures, really. But I will ask, what prompted him to say this. So we're going to go back over it, and we're going to see this, and we're going to break it down, and we're going to see exactly what have here. So we're going to read over it again. We're going to break it. I'm not going to read it through like I just did, but stopping at certain key points. Okay, so look. So in John chapter 6, verse 1. So now this is where you get your pens and papers so you can see what to write. Also, hold up. Okay. Alright, so look, in John chapter 6, verse 1, it said, "After these things, Jesus went over the Sea of Galilee," which is the Sea of Tiberias. So he was still in Galilee. So you can note that down. "And a great multitude followed him, because they saw his miracles, which he did on them that were diseased." So write that down. He just went over he was still in Galilee, he just went over and traveled to another part of Galilee. So look at this in verse 3. "And Jesus went up into a mountain, and there he sat with his disciples. And the Passover, a feast of the Jews, was nigh." Verse 5. "When Jesus then lifted up his eyes and saw a great company come unto him, he saith unto Philip, Whence shall we buy bread that we may eat?" Verse 6. "And this he said to prove him, for he himself knew what he would do." Verse 7. "Philip answered him, 200 pennyworth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may take a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon's Peter brother, saith unto him, There is a lad here which hath 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes." So now he's talking about the first 5 books of the Bible, and also the 2 small fishes, which is the 2 commandments of God of to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, and soul, and to love thy brother as thyself. "But what are they among so many?" In verse 10, "And Jesus said, Make the men sit down. Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down, in number about 5,000. And Jesus took the loaves," so he took the first 5 books, "and when he had given thanks, he distributed to the disciples." So he hey, this is what this day, go and teach them this, and so he told them, hey, this is what you're going to teach them. "And the disciples to them that were sat down." So now they went to go and teach. "And likewise the fishes, as much as they would," teaching them the 2 commandments of the Most High God. Verse 12, "And when they were filled, he said unto the disciples, Gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. Therefore, for that reason, they gathered them together and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which remained over and above unto them that had eaten." Verse 14. "Then those men, when they had seen the miracle that Jesus did, said, This is of a truth that prophet that shall come into the world." So here we see that Jesus fed the people with the word of God, and they were filled with truth, with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Now, we're going to read verse 15, and I want you guys to note this. This is what you're going to put under verse 15. So this is John chapter 1 to 15. So and note, highlight verse 15. So it say, "When Jesus therefore perceived that they would come and take him by force to make him a king, he departed again into a mountain himself alone." So here I want you guys to note, Jesus never departed from Galilee. He departed and hid himself. He still stayed there. He stayed behind. This is what I want you guys to write down in your words. But he never departed from Galilee. He was still in Galilee, but he just went and hid himself. He just went alone into a mountain. He just went somewhere else. So we're going to keep going. Now, after you note that, look at verse 16 and 17. So look at this. It say, and when evening was now come, so this is the next day, but this is at night, because that's how it goes. Night and day, that's one day. So evening is at night, but it's the start of the next day. So it said his disciples went down into the sea. So now they went down into the people and entered into a ship and went over the sea towards Capernaum. So they all was journeying together, and they went over the sea. They went through the people toward Capernaum. This is the next city, and it was now dark. So now you see them traveling, and Jesus was not come to them. So now here, the disciples were, you note over from 16 to 17. Note this. The disciples were departed from Galilee at evening and was in the midst of the sea, swimming through the fishes. That's what they were basically doing. Jesus was not among them while they took shipping into Capernaum. He was not among them. Remember, look at verse 15. He departed again into a mountain himself alone. In 16 and 17, his disciples started to journey together, and they went into Capernaum. They did not depart together with Jesus. Did not go with them in the group that they were in. So now we're going to go to verse 18. So note that for 16 and 17. Now verse 18, and the sea arose by reason of a great wind that blew. So when they had rowed about 25 or 30 furlongs, they see Jesus walking on the sea and drawing nigh into the ship, and they were afraid. So now and they're journeying. Remember, this is at nighttime. This is when it was dark. It just said it right here in verse 17, and now it was dark. So you can also note, but after verse 21. So look, but he said unto them, it is I, be not afraid. Then they willingly received him into the ship. Immediately the ship was at the land whither they went. So through the midst of their journey, so here you can note right here from verse 18 to 21. Through the midst of their journey through the sea, they saw Jesus walking upon the sea, not being fazed, or he wasn't distracted by the waters of the sea, or the waves of the sea, meaning the people. Once Jesus was joined with them, they entered into Capernaum that night. They went into the city that night, into Capernaum. Now remember, they didn't depart together. Now, I'm saying this for a reason. They did not depart together, taking their journey into Capernaum. We just seen that. So now let's go to verse 22. It said the day following, when the people which stood on the other side of the sea. So now these are the ones. This is the day following. So this is the morning. So remember the people that they just had fed over in Galilee. Look at this in verse 22. The day following, when the people which stood on the other side of the sea saw that there was none other boat there, only that one whereinto his disciples were entered, and that Jesus was not with his disciples. You see, they didn't, when the disciples left, remember, Jesus went to go somewhere else. Remember, that's why I told you guys to note that. He did not go with his disciples journeying into Capernaum, because they did not see this physically. They didn't see this at all, because they seen his disciples go. So look, and that Jesus went not with his disciples into the boat, but that his disciples were going away alone. Because we seen that, because Jesus, remember, when he perceived that they was going to make him a king, we see in verse 15, he departed, but he did not go over into Capernaum at this time. In verse 15, he just departed into a mountain himself alone. His disciples were still there amongst the people. So look at this, verse 23. This is more information. This is in parentheses. So look, howbeit there came other boats from Tiberias nigh into the place where they did eat bread. So after that, the Lord had given thanks. So after they had was giving thanks, there other people came over to Tiberias, where they were at eating, where they were at learning. So other people had came there. So now, so note, the next day the people whom Jesus and the disciples fed was looking for Jesus, and saw that the people that came to them that yesterday during the breaking of bread was gone. So this is why, because they seen these were the other boats that they seen. And they remembered when the disciples left that the evening, Jesus did not depart together with them in their sight, because he went alone into a mountain. This is John chapter 6, verse 15. So you'll see, let's keep going. At verse 25, or verse 24, it said, when the people therefore for that reason saw that Jesus was not there, neither his disciples, they also took shipping. So now they went to go and came to Capernaum seeking for Jesus. And when they had found him on the other side of the sea, they said unto him, Rabbi, when camest thou hither? So now, note here we see they had went out seeking for Jesus and went over the sea and traveled until they came over into Capernaum and found Jesus. So now you note that for verses 24 to 25. Now looking at verses 26 to 27, Jesus answered them and said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, ye seek me not because ye saw the miracles, but because ye did eat of the loaves and were filled. Labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for that meat which endureth unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you. For him have God the Father sealed. So that is the parable. For them taking sail to go seek him was a form of labor. They took their journey through the Sea of Galilee, traveling into Capernaum seeking for Jesus. This is what prompted Jesus to say this to Yahushua, to say, labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for that meat which endureth unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you. For him have God the Father sealed. So this is why, I'm not going to give any precepts, but this is what, the next following teachers is going to be about, just going through the Bible and seeing various different things, because they going and seeking for Jesus. You hear it, seeing 24, when the people therefore saw that Jesus was not there, neither his disciples, they also took shipping and came to Capernaum seeking for Jesus, laboring. They went go seeking for him. This is just like a similitude. It's just like if people go and labor and foregoing to buy, cars and Bugattis and houses and jewelry and things. They, you go about on your journey out and go and work. So it's the same thing. Is why, once Jesus went to the next city, they looking at where he at. So they also took shipping. They went about going to seek for him, which is why Jesus said, labor not for the meat, for the bread which perisheth, because this life is temporary. We go out and about every day seeking the things of this world and how to obtain the things of this world. So this is why I say, but for that meat, bread which endureth unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you. For him have God the Father sealed, just as they went out going to seek for him. But it gets even more deep though. So let's go down to verse 28, because even they didn't really even understand this, because you'll see in verse 28, then said they unto him, what shall we do that we might work the works of God? Jesus answered and said unto him, this is the work of God, that ye believe on him whom he hath sent. So here the people wanted to know what might they do to do the labor of God. And Jesus answered, this is the work of God, that ye believe on him whom he hath sent. Because if they believe, having faith, they would have followed it. They would have followed it with works as they went seeking him. Even though we're not going to give precepts, but many precepts might pop up in your head, even as in like James, faith without works, because this is why Jesus said what he said in verse 29. Jesus answered and said unto them, this is the work of God, that ye believe on him whom he hath sent. Because you have faith, then you're going to go about and seeking him and doing the work. Seeking for Jesus is in verse 24. Labor not for the bread, for the meat which perisheth, but for the meat which endureth unto everlasting life. So you'll see, let's go down to verse 30. So they said therefore unto him, what sign shewest thou then, that we may see and believe thee? What doest thou work? So you see that even, let's go and keep reading verse 31. He said, our fathers did eat manna in the desert, as it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. So we see here, like, they did not believe, even though they were filled with the bread, they still didn't even believe, because this can go right into the parable of sowing seed on stony ground. Even though we're not going to get into precepts, because this is just a foundation. I want you guys to go through this just alone before we start adding precepts to understand the text. This is precept must be upon precept, and we also doing it by going back and forth within this one text to understand it. One second. However, noticing that they were not operating in the spirit because of what they said, but in the flesh, thinking Moses gave actual bread from heaven. They think, as we're going to go down, they actually thought Moses gave actual bread, that he acquired physical bread from heaven. You can see that they were completely in a carnal state, although they were filled, but that doesn't mean nothing if they didn't have any faith, because they can immediately receive it, but then once persecution and tribulation and things arise, it's not there anymore. So you can see that they thought carnally, not knowing that God gave unto him the bread, which is the word from heaven, to him to teach, which was Moses. This is what it led Jesus to say this in verse 32. Then Jesus said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, Moses gave you not that bread from heaven, but my Father gave you the true bread from heaven. This is why he went on to say this. Look in verse 33. For the bread of God is he which cometh down from heaven, and giveth life unto the world, which is this word, the Spirit of God, that descends down, that comes out of the mouth of the Most High God. But they were looking at everything carnally here in this, to the ones that Yahweh Shai was talking to in this time of this text that was recorded. So verse 34 said, then said they unto him, Lord, evermore give us this bread. So you see that they were filled with the knowledge that he taught in Galilee, but they did not believe, because if they believed, they would have known that this bread is the word of God that he gave it to them. So we can see that they were looking at everything carnally and not spiritually, not knowing that the work he did and the bread he gave them over here. Actually, let's go over here in John chapter 6 verse 10. And Jesus said, make the men sit down. Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down in number about 5,000. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed to the disciples, and the disciples to them that were sat down, and likewise the fishes as much as they would, not knowing that this was the work which he had just did. But you see that they were thinking of everything carnally, because over here they ask him to shew a sign. Verse 30, and therefore they said, what sign shewest thou then, that we may see and believe thee? What work doest thou? He just did it. They were filled, but they did not believe. He just did it. However, let's jump down to verse 35. And Jesus said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. Verse 36, but I said unto you that ye also have seen me, because they were filled. They ate of the bread and believed not, but they didn't believe it. Although they were fooled, they believed not by stating what they said, over here in John chapter 6, in verse 30. They said unto him, therefore, what sign shewest thou then, that we may see and believe thee? What doest thou work? Our fathers did eat manna in the desert, and as it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. Because because they should have known once they seen the breaking of bread and eating. However, they were just amongst the crowd, although they were full, but they did not believe. When Jesus had and his disciples had given them of the breaking of bread and of the word and of the fishes. So even let's look at verse 29. So harping on back on what Jesus said in verse 29 in John chapter 6 verse 29, Jesus answered and said unto them, this is the work of God, that ye believe on him whom he hath sent. Because once faith comes, then afterward comes the works, as they were seeking for Jesus over here in John chapter 6 verse 24. And when the people therefore saw that Jesus was not there, neither his disciples, they also took shipping and came to Capernaum, seeking for Jesus. This is what Jesus was saying. That's why he said, labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for the meat which endureth unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you, for him have God the Father sealed. So we must endure, we must labor for that meat, for this word, which we are being taught right now. As you will go out and seek and travel the world for the riches of the world and for, the money and the cars, the jewelry, the shoes, the clothes. Labor not for that meat which perisheth. Labor not for that. As if these guys, you see in verse 24, if they weren't seeking for Jesus, but they going over into the next city to work and labor for temporal things. So just as flipping and spiritual is what Jesus seen them doing, of coming and traveling into Capernaum, seeking for him, as far as them doing that labor. But you have to have faith. So this is the work of God, that you believe on him whom he have sent. Then comes the work, as far as you see them coming and seeking for him, putting in the work. Would say, in the beginning of his teachings, you will hear him say he don't want the ones that just come over just to sit. Just as far as how these, you see in this text, they were just amongst them when they was breaking their bed, just sitting. They believed not. They didn't put in the work as far as to, writing anything down. They were just filled and okay, I'm gonna come, but they didn't. It was not mixed in with faith. So this is why I say, labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for the meat which endureth to everlasting life. Having the faith mixed and then going about to do the works. So this is a foundational teaching on this chapter, which if you guys got that, which I'm pretty sure you did, hopefully. It goes into it opens up a lot of things, a lot more things in scripture. However, this is Deacon Emmanuel. If you guys have any questions, put it in the chat, in the comment below after this teaching is done. Remember, this is a foundational teaching. Then the next ones after this, we're going to add precepts and look at various different stories and things in Scripture. However, shalom.